let's dive into a new bit we're going to call Joel Learns from His Dad. And how my blue collar father from Pennsylvania, who spent his life in the waste industry, provided me some great like self reflection on what we all do for a living here, trying to retrofit buildings. So like my dad, throughout my career, like I said, he's kind of old school, blue collar. He's run the waste companies. He's a great businessman, but like, he doesn't understand a lot of the stops I've had, especially when I was at Google, and I was like, yeah, my job's kind of like count emissions, and I like send it to this group called the Carbon Disclosure, and I could tell he's just like, what? Like, what are you doing? But he likes whenever, like, sometimes he'll ask me. Sometimes it starts to get into questions, and recently, like, he hasn't asked me much about Cambio, and he was like, He's like, one day he's like, are you doing anything with this AI thing that's happening? I was like, Dad, I work for an AI company. That's what we do. So he's like, interesting. He's like, oh, really? Like, how are you using AI? So I started telling him what we do, and he's like, what? Like, why? Like, I started to explain. I was like, well, we daylight energy efficiency projects for companies. Like, they give us like 300 of their buildings, and our platform uses AI to tell them like where there's opportunities to save money by doing these retrofit projects. He's like, oh, that's amazing. That must be easy to sell. I was like, yeah, it's harder than you think. And he's like, well, come on, explain it to me. He's like, well, I was like, well, let's say like we charge $1,000 to a company to do one of their buildings, and like we'll daylight, I don't know, 6 or 7 energy efficiency projects, and some of them have a pretty short payback period, and some of them pretty easy ROI calculation. He's like, oh, so it's like, so you charge 1,000, you can save them 2,000. I was like, oh yeah, more. Like charge 1,000. If they do our projects, we could probably save them 10,000. He's like, then why doesn't everyone buy your product? I was like, well, because they kind of don't really care. Like, they don't actually do the projects. Like, even though we show them to do the projects, and like they say they want to do the projects, and they have these big commitments that say they like want to reduce energy, like they don't get to it because there's all this bureaucracy for them. And he's like looking at me like confused, like, I don't understand. Like, if I'm running a business and someone tells me they'll for $1,000 they'll save me $2,000, that should be a no brainer. I was like, yeah, Dad, I kind of used to do that when I was at Google, but like it was really hard for me to get the projects done. And he's always like taking shots at me. I was like, well, then you're not good at your job. So,
Another shitty sales guy.
but it was like just like this really honest conversation. Like, you and I are in sales, and I'm sure you always get these like trainings, or you come across someone's like, you got to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. Like, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, or you can't do it in an elevator, or you can't say it in one sentence, then how can you sell it? So it was like really good practice to explain it to my dad. But then it just led me back to like, why is this so hard to get anyone to do anything in this industry? And like, I couldn't explain to him how these big corporate real estate companies have so many layers of bureaucracy. Now, all that to be said, and you and I know this, this is maybe where I'm asking your opinion. I said, like, well, what kind of happens is, even though they can save energy, they have all these other priorities. They're trying to increase rent. They're trying to make sure they have occupancy. They're trying to avoid risk. They're trying to comply with other regulations. They have taxes. They have insurance. So like, yeah, there's an opportunity for energy, but it just like isn't big enough of a priority compared to the other things to get them to get off their ass and do the thing. So you and I both know that that's real.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think so. I think what you're sort of hitting at is the reason that we created our entire business model. Like, I came into multifamily and said, there's got to be a way for solar to work in multifamily. And the problem with the traditional way is if you only install solar on common area meters, it's just inconsequential to these projects. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't move the needle. It's not worth anybody's time. And I think, unfortunately, that's the reality of a lot of these projects. Like, a lighting upgrade for a 400 unit apartment building. Yeah, the payback's probably 8 months, but you're talking about like an $80 million apartment building, it creating $30,000 of NOI. Is that worth anybody's time? No. But like, unfortunately, it's not. Like, we got to figure out, how do we focus on the bigger projects, the more impactful projects that actually move the needle for like the asset managers, the asset owners, like the LPs, because otherwise I think we're always going to be in this like uncomfortable, unfortunate reality of delivering projects that seem like they make all the sense in the world on paper, but they carry so little value in terms of like the overall investment that nobody's gonna do it.
Yeah. It's just a reality check to people in our industry. It's like, you're screaming into the void of why won't anyone do the projects? There's all this
Yeah.
ROI. It makes so much sense. But it's like, well, if you were in their shoes, you might do it. You might not do it either because you have a lot of
What
other
it,
things to worry about.
I mean, dude, imagine like imagine, think about how much we learned from Z&E.
Yeah.
And I like to think that a big part of the reason that my company is so successful within the space is because I feel like we really get like what these people are going through. Imagine like a rotational program where you go you like sit in the shoes of the asset manager or the property manager, like you get a taste of what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, so you can just like relate to them a little bit better for salespeople.
I totally agree, and I think it helps me a ton having just this credibility of like I've been the owner. I know what it's
Yeah.
like. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's hard.
I've told this story before. Like one of Cambia's competitors, the CEO, I think he's like an academic, and again, probably he created a cool company. No shade, he's built a company. I got a ton of respect for anyone like that. But he had a post about like the future is brown to green, and we need more brown to green. And I was like, dude, you've never owned a brown building. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Good
like
luck. Good luck.
go buy a brown building and tell me how bullish you're going to be on
Yeah, it's
telling
like hard
these
enough
large
to get the
commercial real estate
numbers.
organizations to do it
Yeah,
too.
good luck getting like LP dollars into a Brad Green project where the risk is like
Yeah.
enormous.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's brown, so there's a great opportunity to make it green with energy, and that there's ROI there. But like, there's other issues that come with brown buildings that you might not want
Dude,
to
you know
operate.
what I'm my like we're going way over here, but I think this is important for everyone to hear. I think the more that myself and my company come to the realization that nobody cares about sustainability, it's all dollars. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to just strip everything out of my website, out of our sales material, everything related to sustainability, and just talk about the dollar impact, because the less we talk about sustainability and climate, the better we do as a company.
Well, let's wrap on that. Well, good bit.
Sorry, industry.
Shout out to my dad asking the right questions and teach me a lesson as always.